Lastly, I will be doing prompt 3 on the educational challenge of supporting English language learners. So English language learners represent one of the fastest growing student populations in U.S. schools. Schools face numerous challenges in meeting their linguistic, cultural, and academic needs, and addressing these challenges requires an understanding of language development, instructional strategies, and systematic barriers. Some barriers that English language learners face is language acquisition difficulties, including differences between basic interpersonal communication skills and cognitive academic language proficiency. They face the barrier of limited access to grade level content due to language barriers and instructional gaps. They face the barrier of social emotional challenges, including cultural adaptation, self esteem issues, and discrimination. They face the barrier of standardized assessments that do not account for linguistic diversity and limited professional development for educators on how to best support English language learner students. When you're thinking about supportive measures and successes, um, bilingual education programs that support students' native language while they acquire English would be beneficial. English as a second language or ESL programs that provide targeted language instruction, sheltered instructional observation protocol model, which integrates content and language learning, school policies that foster inclusion, such as dual language programs and culturally responsive teaching, and increased family and community involvement to support students' language development at home. Why is this a challenge? Well, many educators and policymakers misunderstand how long it takes to acquire academic language proficiency, especially those that are still learning the English language. It's also a challenge because systematic barriers such as standardized testing policies place ELLs at a disadvantage. Limited funding and resources for ELL programs create inequitable learning opportunities. Teachers often receive inadequate training in supporting ELLs effectively. And for example, research indicates that English only policies have negatively impacted ELL academic achievement by restricting access to native language support. Looking at the various viewpoints from educators, students, policymakers, and parents and communities, from an educator viewpoint, there's a struggle to balance content instruction with language development, especially as students get into upper grades. Like, for example, I teach third grade, which is upper elementary, and it is a lot of content that the students have to learn. And oftentimes it's hard to find that time to just work on their English language development when you have so much content that you have to teach them. If we're looking at a student viewpoint, they face difficulties in social integration, language barriers, and academic expectations because they are expected to perform on grade level when in reality they're still learning um, the English language and the phonics, the phonemical awareness of it. And then looking at policymakers, there are debates over the most effective approaches, such as bilingual education and full immersion programs. And then the viewpoint of parents and communities is some families advocate for maintaining native language instruction, while others prioritize rapid English acquisition so their students can fit right on in. Looking at a case study of a school district that shifted from an English-only approach to a bilingual program, which helped improve ELL outcomes. Looking at the prevalence in schools, the ELL population continues to grow, making up over 10% of public school students in the US. Schools struggle with funding and staffing shortages for bilingual and ESL educators. Personally, in my classroom, um, through the years I've been teaching, I have worked with several ELL students who initially struggled with comprehension and participation, implementing visual supports and small group instruction and incorporating their native language scaffolding help improve their engagement. Additionally, collaborating with ESL specialists, which is our ESOL teachers allowed for more targeted interventions to support their language development. Strategies for addressing this challenge. But looking from a student standpoint, focusing on the students is implementing scaffolding techniques such as sentence frames, and peer-assisted learning, using differentiated instruction tailored to language proficiency levels, and incorporate culturally relevant materials to engage students. When addressing the situation with or the challenge with teachers, teachers can engage in ongoing professional development, focus on ELL instruction strategies. They can collaborate with ESL specialists to co-teach and design effective lessons, and modify assessments to be more accessible for ELLs while maintaining academic rigor. When supporting families, school districts can conduct workshops to help parents support language development at home. They can establish strong homeschool communication in multiple language and encourage parent participation in school events and decision making. A summary is, throughout my teaching at Northcutt Elementary, I have actively worked to address the challenges English language learners, or ELLs, face in math and science instruction. Recognizing the language barriers can impact comprehension, participation, and assessment outcomes, I have integrated strategies to support both content understanding and language development. To raise awareness among colleagues, I have shared insights on ELL challenges during grade level meetings, emphasizing how academic language and math and science can create additional obstacles for these students. I provided concrete examples of how word problems, technical vocabulary, and classroom discussions can be overwhelming for these students, and offered strategies such as sentence stems, visuals, hands-on activities to make content more accessible for them. Additionally, I have communicated with families of ELLs, providing translated materials and offering tips on how they can support learning at home, such as using bilingual resources or engaging in real-world problem-solving activities. By implementing language-rich instruction, including cooperative learning, scaffolded questioning, and multi-model representation, just like diagrams or real-world examples and digital tools, I have observed an increased engagement and confidence among my English language learners. And these approaches have helped students not only grasp mathematical and scientific concepts more effectively, but also build their English proficiency in an authentic and meaningful way. Formative assessments such as oral explanations or interactive journals is what I like to use a lot for exit tickets, have allowed me to track progress beyond traditional written tests, ensuring that language limitations do not mask students' true understanding of the concept. An impact on student learning and success. English language learners, students who receive targeted support show increased confidence in classroom participation. Research demonstrates that bilingual and dual language programs lead to higher academic achievement and long-term success. Strengthen relationships between families and schools result in a better student outcomes. Community engagement helps create an inclusive learning environment where ELLs thrive. And then an example that I came across in my reading was a school that implemented the SIOP model saw improved test scores and graduation rates among their English language learners. In conclusion, English language learners face multiple barriers, but effective strategies can bridge those achievement gaps. Schools and educators must advocate for policies and programs that support English language learners, and the importance of culturally responsive teaching and equitable access to resources. And these are the references that I used when doing my research on the challenges of English language learners.